So JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity. That is how your application will be able to interact with the backend or the database. Okay. So there is an API. It is a Java API. JDBC is a Java API provided for Java, developing Java applications, so that those applications will be able to interact with the any kind of database. Okay, relational databases. So nowadays you have so many non-SQL database, that is no SQL databases or non-relational databases are there. But here we are going to concentrate only on relational databases. So this JDBC is a Java-based API, which makes Java applications capable of connecting and communicating with the backend. Okay, relational databases. So this API contains several classes, methods, so that the front end or Java application can communicate with the backend. Okay. So if you want to make use of JDBC, or if you want to interact with the backend through your application, then you have to import any of these two packages. Okay, java.sql or javax.sql. Since we are developing Swing applications, you can import javax.sql package, because this package contains the class and methods which are useful for connecting with the database and then communicating with the database. Okay, communicating in the sense, after getting connected to the database, you have to either will be updating the data that is available in the database table, or you will be inserting new data, or you want to remove some existing data. Okay, or you want to search some data. Okay, so for all these things there are predefined class and methods available. So this is a JDBC enabled application architecture. So you have the topmost layer is the Java application, through which you will be interacting with the database. Okay, from which, not through, so from which you will be communicating. So Java application in turn communicates with the JDBC API. Okay, so JDBC API is the intermediate agent which enables a Java application to communicate with the any kind of relational databases. Okay, so you have the JDBC API will receive the data from the Java application, and then after receiving the concerned data or the query, it will look into the appropriate driver. Okay, so it will look into the statement, and then I will show you some examples. Okay, so it will look into the query connection related queries. So and then it will decide which database driver it should get connected to. Okay, so for each database, each type of database, there are concerned JDBC drivers are there, so through which it will be executing the queries. Okay, so Java application, from Java application, JDBC API will search for the concerned drivers, database drivers for the respective databases. Okay, if it is Oracle, then you have the Oracle drivers there. Similarly, for SQL, you have different driver, and then you have the ODBC data source, and then you have MySQL, sorry, MS Access database is there. Okay, so like that, you have different databases. For each database, there will be concerned drivers through which your JDBC will be communicating and then executing the queries, and then finally it will execute the result. Okay, so you have generally 4 types of drivers. So these drivers are client-side adapters. That is, you know the meaning of a general meaning of an adapter. Okay, so it is going to convert. Okay, your request that has been sent from the application or client side to the format which is suitable for the other end. Of drivers, type 1 starting from type 1 up to type 4. Okay, so where 3 and 4 are purely Java based drivers. Okay, because from your application you will be writing the statement as a Java code. Okay, so that Java code should be understood by the backend. Okay, so for that purpose there are specific drivers to convert your Java based code or Java calls into appropriate database calls. Okay, so for that purpose there are different drivers available. So type 1 driver, it will be calling the native code. Okay, you will be having the client side, there will be a driver available, so which um, obtains the request from the application and then it converts it to the suitable format which should be understood by the corresponding database. Whereas you have a type 2 driver also, where you have the vendor specific library will be there. Okay, so different databases will be provided by different vendors. So the vendor, they themselves will be providing the database calls or methods corresponding to the different queries. Okay, so when a select query has been executed from the application, then the corresponding method that is available in the database, that is the library, will be invoked. Okay, so it will be searching and then the corresponding library function will be invoked and then it will be executed. The corresponding query will be executed. Whereas 3 and 4 are purely based on Java. Okay, so it will be talking with the so there will be a middleware. So I'll show you the diagrammatic representation of these 4 drivers. So this is the diagrammatic representation of each driver, each type of driver. So where in first type 1 and 2 will be having the client side libraries will be there. Okay, either the corresponding driver will be there, or else in the type 2 you will be having the vendor specific drivers will be there. Okay, because the database vendors will be having their own library files, so that it will be connecting and communicating through that library. Okay, whereas in the third one you'll be having the middle layer will be there from the application. Java client represents the Java application. Okay, so the Java application will be sending the query or the request, so that will be received by the middle layer, which consists of the corresponding drivers. Okay, so it will be available at the server side. Whereas in type 1 and type 2, the conversion will happen at the client side itself. As here, the conversion happens at the server side in both the type 3 and 4. Okay, so the difference between third and fourth is that in the fourth one you have a common driver which for all type of databases. Okay, whereas in the third one you'll be having specific drivers. Okay, corresponding drivers will be there which will be converting the application oriented calls to the database specific calls. Okay, whereas in type 4, for all types of databases there will be one common driver through which the calls will be converted to database specific methods. Okay, or the calls. So this is how whatever request has been sent from the application, those requests will be carried over by the JDBC API and then sent to the corresponding drivers. Okay, and those drivers will be executing the request, and the result will be returned back to the application through the JDBC API. So now there are few steps which has to be followed if you want to develop a database oriented Java application. Okay, so until the previous session we have learned how you people have learned how to develop a Swing application or Java desktop application using basic Swing components without connecting with the database. Okay, if you don't have any database, then it means that whatever data or information provided by the end user will not be available anywhere. Okay, So it cannot be stored anywhere. It is possible to store in a text file, but it will. I think you might have already learned the difference between the storage of information in text file and then your actual database. Okay. So file management is searching of content in a file, text file will be more complex than the database. Okay. So totally there are 7 steps that should be followed if you want to connect your application with the backend. Okay. So you use backend only for persistent storage of data, that is permanent storage of the end user data. Say for example, I have a student management system. So wherein I have created an application for maintaining, collecting the personal information about the students, and then I want to maintain those data. Okay. So if it is so, I should first collect the data from the user through the application, and then while the user clicks on the submit button or insert, then those data should be fetched from the application, and then it should be inserted into the database table, corresponding table. Okay, you'll be having more than one database also, but related information should be maintained only in a single database with multiple tables. Okay. So say for example, I have a student database, student DB. Inside that I can have a number of tables to segregate the category of information. Say for example, if I want to maintain personal information, I can have personal table, then first table as personal, then academic as another table, and then extracurricular as another table, similarly co-curricular as another table. So the academic table will maintain only the mark details. Similarly, I can have placement as another table. Like that, I can have different tables combined or put together in a single database. Okay, don't go for multiple databases for everything. Say if you want to say for example, if I am going to develop a ERP application, enterprise resource planning, which means that I am going to automate everything, every activity inside an organization, so that I can maintain, say if you consider our own organization, I can maintain students information in a database, faculty information in another database, administrative related information in another database. Okay, so like that you can prefer different databases for different purpose for maintaining information regarding different entities. Okay. So first thing is that the first step is that you have to load the corresponding JDBC driver, because only through the driver you are going to get connected to the corresponding database. So for that, first step we have to do is that you should load the corresponding database driver. So once you load, so you will be loading the database driver using the class.forName method. Students, are you able to follow me? Students? Driver. Okay, I will show you the statements, corresponding statement through an example. So after you load the driver, the second step is to get connected to the URL. Okay, so for that you have to first define the connection URL. Okay, through a string variable. Okay, so the connection URL should contain these things, that is the server, database server, and then the port through which the application is available, and then the actual name of the database. Okay, 3 things you have to specify. You have to define in the connection URL. Okay, name of the that is the IP address of the server, IP address of the database server, and then the port number through which the application is running, and then the name of the database. Okay, so the database server may have a number of databases. So in that database server, which is your database, that you have to mention through the name of the database. So after defining the URL, you have to establish the connection through the open method. Okay, there's a method called you have a method for in the connection class, or I will show you the different methods. So one of the methods is open. through which you will be establishing a connection to your backend, that is database. Okay, it is not that your database will be available only in your own system. It will be available in different machines. Okay, so if it is so, then you have to get connected to the database. So that's why you have to specify the IP address of the server. Okay, so if it is available in the same system, then you can have it as a local host. So now after establishing the connection, the fourth step is you have to create the statement to be executed. Okay, so once you establish connection to the database, then the next step is you will be looking for the queries to be executed. Okay, so I think you all know the different queries that can be executed, or queries that can be created to manipulate with the database. So once you create the database, how will you interact with the database? What are the different queries? Yeah, insert, create. Okay, okay, very good. So you will be creating a database. So here from the application itself, it is also possible to create a database table. Okay, create a database table, and then you can insert the data into the created table. Okay, then you can do update operations, or you can delete the existing data, or else you can interact with the database and search for some data. Okay, say for example, if I want to retrieve the marks, okay, of the current semester, or marks of the previous semester of one particular student, then I can execute the select query. Okay, I can frame a select query and then execute the same. Okay, so for that you have to first create a statement object. So through that statement object, you will be going to execute the query. Okay, so fifth step is that you have to execute a query by passing the query to the methods. Either you have execute method, execute query method is there, execute update, or execute batch. Okay, you have 4 different methods are there. Execute is used for executing the select query. Execute update is used for executing the update or delete queries. Okay, execute batch, it is used for executing batch of commands. Okay, then after executing the query, you can process the results. Okay, say for example, you have executed a select query. Okay, so which means that the select query will be retrieving the data from the database table. Okay, so you can iterate through the result, and then you can display those retrieved data. Okay, through the result set. There is a result set class through which you will be able to iterate through the data that has been retrieved, and then you can display the same on as an output through your application. See, the result set consists of the rows that has been affected by the select query. Okay, so each row contains columns. Here columns represent the corresponding tuples. Okay, and then finally, after processing the results, you can close the connection to the database using the close method, so that the related resources will be released. That is, the memory resource will be released, so that some other application will be able to connect with the database. Then here, this is the first step. I want to load the database driver. Okay, so here I have made use of a MS Access as the database. So you can make use of Oracle or SQL also as a database. Okay, so here I have made use of MS Access as the database. So for that, so this is how I have to load the corresponding driver. The driver is JDBC ODBC driver. Okay, so if it is I'll tell you, if it is a MySQL database, then so this is how you have to connect to the, or you have to load the corresponding driver. Class dot for name So for name is a method which is used for loading the corresponding driver. So within that you have to specify the corresponding driver. So this is how you have to specify. So this should not change. This is a corresponding statement which is used, which represents the driver. So com.mysql.jdbc.driver. Okay. So if it is of MS success, then this is the statement. Okay. So in your next class, let me tell you how to. So what is the how you can load the other driver, that is the Oracle driver. Okay. So through using the for name method, you have to load the driver. Then after loading the driver, you have to define the connection URL. Okay. Host name, that is the IP address, or your directly you can give the domain name of the server. Okay. Then your database name, your port number. Okay. So if it is of Oracle, you'll be having a statement like this. Okay. You can create a URL like this: JDBC Oracle thin, and then so this represents the server. Okay. And then your domain name. Okay. So this is static. So this will be changing. Okay. Host will be changing. And then colon port number, and then colon your database. Okay. So this will be changing based on your type of the database. So let me show you. See, this is the other one. So if it is SQL, then so this is how I have to define the. This is how I have to define the URL, connection URL. Okay. So it is a string through which you have to frame the statement representing the connection URL. So JDBC :MySQL your server, which represents the database server. So here I am making use of the database in the same system. Okay, so that's why it is localhost. Otherwise, you have to provide the IP address here. Then the corresponding port number, and then name of the database. I have a database name employee DB, and then the next thing is 3 components you have to provide here. First one is the database server in this format. Okay, so this is the format through which you have to specify the database server along with the name of the database. Then next one is the username and the password. Okay, so second component is the username, third component is the password. So 3 things you have to specify for either it may be Oracle or MySQL database. Okay. So if it is a MS Access database, then you have to specify one string statement: JDBC :ODBC your domain names. So you'll be creating a domain name for the database, for the MS Access database. So that will tell you how to create a domain name for the MS Access database. So this EMP1 is not the name of the database. Okay. So this is the domain name that has been given for the database I have created. Okay. Then you have to pass this into the get connection method to get connected to the corresponding database. Okay. So either I can give it as, say, for example, string URL equal to so this is how you have to define the URL, and then you can pass the URL to the get connection method. So this is the third step. So you get connected to the database using the get connection method, which is available inside the driver manager class. Okay. So this is the default class available, built-in class, which contains a get connection method. So this get connection method is used for getting connected to the database by specifying the URL to the URL of the database. URL should represent the database server, your database name. Okay, if password is provided, then you have to mention the username and password. So this is how you have to establish the connection. Get connection of URL, username and password. Your connection class has so many methods. See, so this connection is a built-in class for which you have to create an object. That object should refer to the connection that has been made to the database. Okay. So driver manager will return a connection object. Okay, that will be stored in the connection object that we have created here. So that connection object has these methods. Okay, open is the method which is used for opening the connection to the database. Without opening the connection, you cannot execute the statements. Okay. Then you have close method for closing the database connection. Then you have prepared statement method, which is used for executing the prepared statements. So I think if you have in your database, you might have learned how to create a prepared statements. Okay, you can pre-compile the queries so that it will be executed with different data. Okay, so once the query has been pre-compiled, then it will take less time to execute the queries. Okay, so for that purpose, you can go for prepared statement. Say, for example, if I have, if I want to execute a select statement with different criteria, then I can I can have no, not select statement. I think it is insert statement. Okay, because the data alone is going to vary, whereas the query remains the same. Okay, because say for the user may be different. Okay, but the purpose is same. You will be inserting various data of various users into the database. So the data pertaining to the user is going to differ, but the query remains the same. You are going to execute the insert query alone. Okay. So for that, you can have a create a prepared statement so that the particular statement will be pre-compiled and then it will be executed with different data with the pertaining to different users. Okay, so that it will reduce the compilation time, so that which in turn will reduce the execution time also, and data fetching time or data processing time. Similarly, you have stored procedures also. All these concepts you might be familiar with the database itself. Okay, so you can execute the stored procedures using prepared call, and then you can manipulate the transactions using the rollback and commit methods. Then you can check whether the database has been connection has been expired or not using the isClose method. Because the by default there will be a specific timeout period. Okay, so if the timeout expires, then automatically the connection will be closed. So you can check whether the connection has been closed using the isClose method. Then fourth step is that after getting connected to the database, you have to create a statement object to represent the different statements to be executed. Okay, so statement keyword, that is the class, followed by the object equal to the connection object dot create statement. Okay, connection object has the method named create statement. Again, it is a built-in method. Okay, create statement is a built-in method. So yes, statement st equal to connection dot create statement. So now st represents a create statement, so by which you can execute the different queries. Okay, so let me show you. See here, so st is a statement object equal to con is a connection object, con dot create statement. So now st is used for executing the query. Say st dot execute query. So here I have executed select query. Okay, so st dot execute query select start from pay details. Pay details is a table that exists inside the database, which is represented through the domain name emp1. Okay, so it will connect to the database represented through emp1, inside which you have pay details as a table. So in the table it will execute the select query. Okay, so it will be fetching all the data from the pay details, and then those data or all the rows will be stored in the object rs, which is a result set object. Okay, see here I have created a result set object. So now rs will be containing all the rows that have been affected by the select query. Here I have executed star select star, so which means that all the rows from the pay details table will be returned, and then it will be stored inside the rs object. So that is the usage of the statement object. So statement object has all these different methods. Execute query, as I have mentioned earlier, you have different queries. Different methods for executing the, different queries. Execute query, it is used for executing the select query. Execute update is used for executing the other queries, that is update, insert, and delete queries. Then execute batch, it is used for executing a batch of commands, a set of commands. Okay. Similarly, set query timeout is a method used for setting the timeout period for the connection. Then there are two other methods: get max rows and set max rows. So get max rows is used for the number of rows that has been maximum number of rows that has been affected by the particular query. Finally, after executing the query, you have to process the result that has been affected by the particular query. If it is a select query, then you have to iterate it. The particular result set object will be containing so many rows. So you can iterate through the rows, and then you can display the data of the that is available in that particular row. So for that, you can make use of there is a method called next, which is used for pointing to the next row. Okay, in the result. So when it calls for the first time, it will indicate the first row which has been affected. Then while iterating, it will move to the pointer will move to the next row. So now it will presently indicate the first row that has been affected. So there are methods that are available in the result set object, such as get x access. That is, this x represents the data type. So again, you might be aware of the data type. I think it is time up. Wait for 2 minutes. So you have a data type. In database also, you can make use of different data types for representing different kind of data. Okay. So string, float, decimal is there. Okay. Integer is there. Text is there. Date. So like that, you have different types of data. So based on the type of the data that is available in the database table, you can make use of the corresponding get methods. So here I have made use of get string. So say for example, if you have stored the age of the employee, so it is an integer. So I can make use of get int method. Okay. Similarly, if you have made use of, if you have stored the pay details, okay, salary of an employee, so it will be in a decimal. Okay. Then or float or double. Okay. Then according to that, you can make use of the method. Okay. So the column indexing starts from 1, okay, not 0. Column and row indexing always starts from 1. So here I have tried to retrieve the data column values that are available in a specific row. Or else you can pass the exact column name inside this method. Get string of 1 represents the index, whereas instead of 1 you can make use of the corresponding column name. If it is EMP name, I can pass it as within double quotes EMP name. Similarly, within double quotes I can pass designation like that. Say here last two statements. So instead of the index, I have passed the column name itself. So like this, you can iterate through the result set, and then you can display the details.